Belichick. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, NFL voter, NFL Hall of Fame voter, and also in the committee, joins us on 365 Sports. John, let's get straight to the biggest story, I guess, should be the teams that won, but including the Texans. But it's all about Dallas and another failure, and your thoughts about what's going to happen with Mike McCarthy.
I thought the Cowboys this year were positioned better than they have been in recent years. I never thought they would beat the 49ers in the championship game, if indeed that's who they play. But to come out and lay an egg like they did on both sides of the ball and have Dak Prescott play so well in the season, being an MVP candidate, and then stinking it up as bad as he did, and Dan Quinn's defense looked like it wasn't coached at all. I don't see how you can run it back. You can't. Cowboys will always have their fans, but man, they were just a total embarrassment, and everybody knows it. And everybody's got an idea. I think if Jerry Jones could hire Bill Belichick, he'd do it in a heartbeat. People may say, "Well, why would Bill Belichick want to work with Jerry Jones?" Like they said, "Well, why in the world would Bill Parcells work with Jerry Jones?" And he made it work. And I think keeping Will McClain there is the kind of personnel guy that Belichick needs, because Belichick's personnel decisions since he let Nick Caserio get away have been terrible. And Dak needs somebody, and I don't know this would happen, but the last season that Josh McDaniels coached with Belichick was the rookie year for Mac Jones. And Mac Jones was the best of all the rookie quarterbacks, and everybody had high hopes for him. And then McDaniels was hired by Vegas, and Mac Jones has gone straight down the toilet. So I'm wondering, what could Josh McDaniels do with Dak Prescott? But as you guys know, the Cowboys have had other failures, but it's clock management, game management, Dak acting like a deer caught in the headlight. But this one was a total meltdown against the team I thought they would blow out.
Well, and look, for Bill Belichick, this is not going to be a 10-year hitch with the Cowboys, right? So it would seem to make sense that if the things they're missing are, and look, Bill Belichick, the reason he's as great as he is, not the only reason, but if the Patriots are always good at the little things. The Cowboys lose games because they're really not good at the little things. You know, that the game they lost earlier this year to Philadelphia, John, was, Dak steps out of bounds, kind of carelessly short of a touchdown. They line up, have an ineligible receiver, on a key play. Those things that when the Patriots were rolling and they had the talent they did, they just didn't make those mistakes.
Attention to detail. And even this year, the Patriots led the league in fewest average yards per rush, allowing. So their defense wasn't bad. It was a problem on offense. And that's why Belichick would have to make sure he got a really good coordinator. And his best years were with McDaniels. Don't know if McDaniels would want to do it, but he would have to get someone who could do, because the thing that got me about Prescott, and I know every Cowboy fan out there knows this, he didn't look prepared. He looked confused. He looked like kind of discombobulated. He and CeeDee Lamb. And I don't know if it was because of what the Packers were doing, or they just, something happened to them when they got to the playoff game. And I guarantee you, they took the Packers lightly. McCarthy didn't. He pumped them up all week to get serious about this game. And that's a subconscious thing anyway. But man, oh man, I don't know many more thorough butt kickings in a playoff game I've ever seen by a team that should have lost decisively.
Well, John, that was not even close to the only butt kicking this weekend when it came to the NFL playoffs. There was another one, those Houston Texans, 45-14 over the Cleveland Browns down in H-Town. What was that atmosphere like, and what's the feeling like after the big playoff win for DeMeco, Ryan, C.J. Stroud and company?
It was the wildest and craziest crowd I've ever seen here, Craig, since their first playoff game in 2011 when they beat the Bengals and rookie J.J. Watt returned an interception for a touchdown. The Watt phenomenon was born. They beat Andy Dalton, the hometown hero from Katy, and it was like that on Sunday. I picked the Browns to win by 4. They were favored by 2. They had come in on Christmas Eve, had them down 36-9, called off the dogs and won 36-22. And this Texans team didn't have C.J. Stroud, of course, and he made a hell of a difference. And their defense supplied 2 pick sixes, first time that's been done in a playoff game since 2008. Now, Baltimore's favored by 9.5. That may go up, and I fully expect Baltimore to win. But I've learned not to doubt C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. It's amazing when you think they have a first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, play caller, first-year quarterbacks coach, and Gerard Johnson, and a rookie quarterback. And they've been able to go 11-7 since they lost their first 2 at Baltimore and Indianapolis. They've been 11-5, and the coaches are really doing a good job. They've overcome so many injuries. Their offensive lines now use 4 left tackles, 4 left guards, 5 centers, 1 right guard, and 4 right tackles. And so that's one reason the offensive line still struggles, but they dominated the Browns, number 1 defense in the league, and Larry Tunsil, the left tackle, made it look like Myles Garrett didn't show up.
NFC quarterbacks with Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, who obviously has had a really nice start. Jordan Love, who looked like if I would have like closed my eyes and or maybe not, looked like Aaron Rodgers. I know it's 1 game, but he's really coming on strong. Baker Mayfield, reclamation project. Goff, what a nice moment that was for him. But the AFC has Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and the super phenom and C.J. Stroud. Is it like back and forth sometimes with what conference has the best coaches and or quarterbacks?
Well, you left out Justin Herbert. He's pretty good, too, Tua Tagovailoa.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the ones remaining in the playoffs. I'm sorry.
Oh, the ones remaining in the playoffs, sure. And, if you had gone back to the first of the playoffs and said, I'm going to bet on every team that has the best quarterback. Now, you would have taken Dak Prescott over Jordan Love, but usually it is the best quarterback. Now, that's why I can't wait. Buffalo and Kansas City, that playoff game 2 years ago was as good as I've ever seen. And if the rule was the rule now that it was then, and they changed it because of this, when Chiefs got the ball in overtime, Mahomes took them to a touchdown, and Josh Allen never touched the ball. And just like when Brady beat the Chiefs, he took them to a touchdown, and Mahomes never got to touch the ball. So now we don't have to worry about that. But that fact, Patrick Mahomes has been in the league since 17, and he's never played a playoff game on the road. That just blows me away. And the other one that's even crazier, since the Texans came into the league in 2002, they have more playoff victories than the Cowboys.
John,
you got any more of those, John? That's good stuff right there.
Say that again.
Since the Texans came into the league in 2002, they have more playoff victories than the Cowboys.
I think I heard a stat that the Packers have as many wins at AT&T Stadium, playoff wins at AT&T Stadium as the Cowboys since it opened.
Well, counting the regulars, they're 7-0 overall there, and they won a Super Bowl there, and they've never lost at AT&T Stadium. They're home away from home. Maybe if they play next year, we'll take them more seriously. And what they did and what the Texans did, I didn't think possible.
Yeah. No, John, on the Texans, I mean, most times Italians get beat up that bad, they wind up in the bottom of a river for poor Joe Flacco. But of the coaches that are available, I mean, you mentioned Bill Belichick. I know he interviewed with the Falcons. The Cowboys would be a possibility if Mike McCarthy does get fired. But Mike Vrabel's out there, and Jim Harbaugh, complete interview with the Chargers. Where do you see the two of them ending up? Do you think Jim Harbaugh ultimately does wind up with the Chargers?
I thought there was a story out by USA Today columnist that Harbaugh has a clause in that contract that they're trying to get him to sign, saying he can't be fired or penalized if they get penalized by the NCAA. So that's kind of strange. But I'll tell you a great story. Mike Greenberg of ESPN told a story last week. He said he was at a funeral of a longtime Michigan guy he knew, and Harbaugh knew him, and he was there, a big alum. And afterward, they were talking, and Harbaugh was talking about all the great young quarterbacks in the NFL. And Greenberg said the one he talked about the most Justin Herbert. He couldn't stop talking about Justin Herbert. So that's why Greenberg thinks he's headed to the Chargers, and that's a pretty good reason to believe it, because they also don't have a GM, and he's going to want control. I think Mike Vrabel will be great in Atlanta because they like to run the ball. They have two backs, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algiers. They got skill position players, good defense, good offensive line. They're just missing that one little position, but they have the 9th overall pick, and this is a deep draft, and there are going to be some veterans like Kirk Cousins available.
John, what did you think of the Eagles' ending to the collapse that's been clear and obvious down this stretch for a while now?
Craig, they got that disease that affects all
It's unbelievable.
Super Bowl losers. Super Bowl losers did not go back to the Super Bowl for whatever reason. New England did once, but then you got to go back to the 90s. And I don't know why you would think the Super Bowl loser would be the most motivated, determined team to get back, but that's what happens. And when they were 10-1 and started to lose, I thought, man, they've got that disease. And it's no surprise Cowboys won the division because nobody repeats as champion. So we can go ahead and mark in Philadelphia next year, maybe. And I don't think Washington or New York, but the Cowboys won't repeat because nobody ever does. But it's just amazing the way they fell apart. Great offensive line, great defensive line. They didn't do squat.
Yeah, it's almost like they mailed it in. That's a nuts. That trend is nuts. Yeah, is that trend? Yep.
It was like Aikman said last night early. They just didn't look like they wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible, terrible sign to the coaching staff. And I'm guessing Sirianni won't get fired, but there'll be big changes on his staff.
Is the stat still around that was forever that at least half the teams that make the playoffs the next year don't? Is that, you remember that where it seemed like it went on and
yeah.
on? Yeah.
And there's at least, like this was true last year, at least 4 teams gone from worst to first, like the Texans have this year. In fact, 2 teams that went from worst to first have won the Super Bowl in the last 20 years. And that's one thing the NFL likes is the turnover. You don't want New England dynasties with multiple teams or all up there. You don't want like baseball where you got a lot of teams that spend all the money that are up at the top. And or the NBA, like it was with the Warriors and the Lakers, and they call it parity, and that's Parity, not Parody.
John, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time as
Thank
always.
you, guys. Second Bears.
John McClain with us on 365 Sports. A quick look